Let us now move on to the second oration, Dr. Sindhu Pandit oration. Late Dr. Mrs. Sindhu Pandit was an alumnus of said GS Medical College and KEM Hospital who joined in 1944 for MBBS course. She completed her post-graduation in obstetrics and gynecology and then worked for 9 years as an associate professor at Sir Sayaji Rao General Hospital and Medical College, Baroda. She then shifted to Mumbai in 1963 and set up her practice as consulting obstetrician and gynecologist and continued it till 1990. She left for heavenly abode on 31st December 2000. The oration has been instituted by her husband, Dr. R.D. Pandit, in her memory through Gossamet Alumni Association. Dr. R.D. Pandit, himself an obstetrician and gynecologist and professor in Maternity Wadia Hospital, was closely associated with the activities of Gossamet Alumni Association throughout his life. He always believed that listening carefully to the eminent personalities from various fields of medicine enriches the knowledge base of students, inspires them, and contributes to their holistic development. He provided an opportunity for the same by instituting this oration, surpassed away in 2011, but with this oration instituted in memory of his wife, we cherish his fond memories too. Let me now request the chairpersons for Dr. Sindhu Pandit oration, Dr.Lopa Mehta Madam and Dr.Ram Prabhoo sir, to please come on the dais with the distinguished orator, Dr. Nalini Shah Madam. I request Reshma to offer them Tilgur as a mark of our respect. Our first chairperson for this oration is Dr. Lopa Mehta Madam, Professor Emeritus, who has spent 6 decades in this institute and who is at the helm of Dr.M.V.L.Kothari Chair of Humanities. Our second chairperson, Dr. Ram Prabhoo sir. He is a renowned orthopedic surgeon from Mumbai, head of department at V.N. Desai Hospital and medical director of Mukund Hospital. He is also the honorary secretary of Gossamet Alumni Association. May I request Dr. Lopa Mehta Madam to introduce the orator of this prestigious oration for this year, Dr. Nalini Shah Madam.
Good morning. It's a very pleasant surprise to me that I am supposed to introduce Nalini. Nalini, I can't give anything about all your academic achievements, which are Everest high. I can only introduce you as one of the finest persons you come across as a physician, as a person. If you want to see incarnation of sincerity, dedication, involvement in what one does, she symbolizes that. Something Dr. Bhandarkar started just as a part of medicine, just a small wing of endocrinology, was just thyroid disorders. Diabetes was somewhere else. And then gradually, Sir put in a lot of work. Mind you, in the endocrinology seats are shown by Dr. Bhandarkar, who was supposed to be only an honorary, who put in more work than most of the full-timers did. And then it was his very desire that the department should really expand. And he pleaded, as he puts, he almost wooed Dr. Padma Menon to come, become the head of the department and take over the reins as a full-time teacher. She was my classmate, but at Nayak, contemporary. She also put in the hard work, and she was ably helped by Nalini, who was all along there. And if you want to see somebody in the institution from 8:30, 9 in the morning to 6:30, 7:30 in the evening, Nalini was always there. If you were to go to various trials at clinical level in endocrinology, you will find the highest numbers of publications come from endocrinology department. And whenever in digest it is being discussed, they always wonder that why so many publications and research projects are only from endocrinology department. The entire credit goes to very, very methodical work done by Nalini, and now of course she has trained all her junior colleagues, and I am sure they will take further. As I understand, Nalini, please correct me if I make mistake, but you are the only representative from India in International Endocrinology Society. Am I right? Thank you. And she being such dedicated work and love for patients and work at KM, in between then, when the rule came that full-timers can take to private practice beyond working hours, she opted for it, and in 2 months she gave up, saying that no, I am not able to do justice to patients and work at KM, and she became full-timers in no time, once more. And I have requested Nalini that with all her rich clinical experience, somewhere at the back of it, if she can spare a little part of her talk to kindle in each one of you the necessity, the correct way of taking to medicine by reading each patient as a live book, by going to the bedside, and then whatever you find, confirm in your library, not the other way around. NEET will never train you to become a good physician. Whatever rank, whatever marks, whatever career you may get, but it will not make you a good physician, medical practitioner. So I am sorry, Nalini, I had nothing, so I have not mentioned anything about your academic achievements, but I am so happy that you are here. It gives me immense pleasure that you will be interacting directly, because most of the super specialists don't get the opportunity to interact with undergraduates, but here she will get today. Thank you.
I request the chairpersons to take seat in the dais, and I request Madam to start with an oration.
What a feeling, what a pleasure to be in this auditorium. An auditorium which is full of joy, full of cerebral energy, which comes from all and every one of you who are present over here and who are not present over here. I take it as a moment of great pride and privilege to be on these days and to deliver Dr. Mrs. Sindhu Pandit oration. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to tell you all about the journey that I've had, the journey of joy, the journey of fulfillment and the journey of sheer delightful pleasure that I have experienced in this very institution that I still continue to hold in the highest of esteem in my heart. Unlike my very learned previous speaker, Dr. Philip Abraham, who kind of had this vision mission statement to take you through a disease process and kind of tell you all how it evolved over his decades of evolution of knowledge base and learning, and how he kind of discovered the various milestones attached to it, I thought I would simply share you through the whole journey which is studded with its superb milestones, which I'd like to really share with you all today. So milestones in a lifetime of a medical student always go through this cascade of events of acquiring the undergraduate qualification, and then comes the postgraduate qualification, and then comes the subspecialty. And after having incurred any of these milestones at whatever level that you want to stop as you deem fit or necessary, then you start sort of your further journey, which may sort of culminate in one of these prestigious institutions, like I had the privilege of working for more than 3 decades, or it could sort of encompass in another setup of your choice, your liking, and you continue to further and nurture what you've learned in these walls of institutions. My journey started in a much similar way, with medicine being the fulcrum around which I built and I decided to build my career, and it ended somewhere at DM as a subspecialty of endocrinology. MBBS started as a foundation stone of my building, of my very existence, and that started as my career at Grant Medical College and Teaching Hospital. And what formative years I went through. When I reflect back on that journey, which began in 1974, and I look back upon it today, I think what I am, as I am today, began right there in that years of formative period. The teachers who sort of enjoyed teaching the undergraduate students, who owned up those undergraduate students, who loved their subject and who had a commitment to teaching and to the subject. I learned from them all aspects of my basic foundation of applied anatomy, applied physiology, pathology, microbiology, pharmacology, and with those building stones, I started my training in clinical subjects. And when you go through these clinical subjects as an undergrad, you understand the very need and the foundation which needs to be so strong with applied anatomy and physiology that even today, if I was to learn and read any new subject, I think the first port of call is to understand the applied physiology, the applied anatomy and the biochemistry, and only then set out to learn that whole process. It's so very incomplete to start learning a disease without going back to those foundations and reiterating your fundamentals stronger than what they were, and then start learning afresh a new subject that you set out to mark for yourself. As I learned my career through MBBS and I went through the clinical terms, again the stalwarts with whom we trained, they took upon themselves to handhold this very lost undergraduates that I was, and handheld us through the entire journey, the entire process, teaching us right from the bedside manners. How do you talk to a patient? How do you sit beside a patient? How do you greet and introduce yourself to this patient? How do you hold the stethoscope? What should be the length of the tube of the stethoscope? And I know that on my first day, I had a very Indian, nice looking stethoscope. I took it out of my box, and the first thing my teacher did was cut off the length of the stethoscope. And I was aghast. He's cutting off my brand new stethoscope, saying, no, the length of your tubing is completely wrong. You cannot be auscultating your patient like that. It has to be like this. And that's the first thing he did for me. And every such little details was looked after, were taught to us, were ingrained into us till it receded into the baseline of normality. And normality became detailing and commitment to the cause that you were learning, and commitment to your patients who were such great learning, teaching sort of source materials for you. And that's what was inducted and inculcated into us. The journey continued and our MD training began. The MD was the first port of accountability. We were now responsible not only for learning medicine, we were now responsible for the well-being of our patients and directly answerable, even as a junior resident, to our senior residents and of course to our superiors, our consultants alike. And that also marked an era to tell me that learning science alone was not enough. I am basically, ladies and gentlemen, by training, I'm a pediatrician. And to me, the diarrheal disorders sort of reigned supreme because the mortality associated with this diarrheal disorders was extremely high. I used to have these young infants coming in my arms and you sort of look after them, take them through nice, precisely made and measured input and output of fluid and electrolytic balance, send them home happy and healthy and hearty, only to have them back with another set of infection, a third set of infection, and in your own arms they would succumb to death. And that was so very traumatic for me to encounter death of these young infants who I could helplessly then start visualizing, even in their first admission, that somewhere along the line this baby is going to come back and die in my arms. And that is a time you learned to ask yourself a question: what is it that is killing these young infants, and how do we prevent that, even when we are sort of combating the first encounter of diarrheal illnesses? And much early in life I learned that it was beyond medicine. It was the social, it was the economic strata of the society, of the family members, which did not allow these babies to recuperate from what they went through as a major trauma of lactose intolerance. The lactose intolerance was extremely difficult for us to treat because lactose-free formulas was extremely expensive and very difficult to obtain. And all my senior residents would tell me, and my consultants would tell me, we can't do anything about it. And that was so traumatic that why am I saving this baby only that it comes back to me on second and third admission and is going to die again in front of my eyes? And that was so unacceptable. It was so unacceptable to hear that you cannot combat a limitation which loomed large in front of your eyes. And this is 1980, ladies and gentlemen. And I decided at that time that this cannot happen to my babies. We needed to have something simple, something effective, something available, which would allow these babies to not only survive, allow them to thrive and be well and not come back for the next admission. And that is a time with sort of just literally what Philip said, talking to the patients at the bedside, talking to the parents at the bedside, and talking to grandmas at home. What I realized is that there is a very simple solution which is possible for them, and we invented homegrown solution for lactose-free formula. And that was what was inducted for care of these babies. And not only that, we also learned the art of the science that it was not possible for hospital to supply the ingredients of this lactose-free formula. We just went out in the society, obtained donations, convinced our donors that this was an absolute need of the hour for babies to be salvaged, and produced a system of seamless donors and donations. Not only that, we took all our caretakers, the ayabais, the maushis, who would kind of cook up this formula from the raw ingredients which were supplied and would nurture and look after these babies. And they were so rewarded with joy that these babies not only did well, they thrived, and on OPD basis when they came back for follow-up, they would go back and meet these ayabais, maushis, staff nurse, senior residents and the other patients to say, I am so well now. And that was such a reward. And that was such a learning curve. The limitations do exist in system like ours. They are always going to exist. But undoing these limitations is one of the fundamental art of the science that one had to learn to get betterment of the results. And can you believe the reward of this? I was just passing through the corridor of KM about a decade ago, and in front of Dean's office, one of the UG, a very bright looking, very radiant looking UG comes up to me and asks me, "Madam, do you recognize me?" And I looked him up and down and I said, "I'm so sorry, I don't recognize you." Saying, "You know something, I met you when I was 9 months old." I said, "Oh, if you were 9 months old, I'm not going to remember you because you look like something like 20 years old now." Saying, "I was admitted under your care when I was 9 months old with diarrhea, with lactose intolerance, and my pediatrician at that time, Dr. who sort of all of us know and revere him, had said that if this baby had to survive, this baby had to be admitted at JJ Hospital and had to be treated by these residents, go through this lactose-free formula, and only that was a chance for these babies to survive." And I remember immediately it clicked in my head, these babies were twins, who were sort of twins of one of my consultant colleagues in anesthesiology department, who thought it was fit enough for her to bring her twin little babies to be admitted under our care. And here he was in front of my eyes, a 20-year-old undergrad student of this very prestigious institution at KM Hospital. What a reward and what a sort of fulfillment of joy it felt to have him in front of my eyes. And that told me, economic challenges are never a limitation. You can always circumvent them with means, measures, and even aid of economics is possible for this very prestigious institutions. So then began the journey of my love of learning endocrinology, and I enjoyed every moment of residency under the mentorship of Dr. S.T. Bhandarkar, a very learned, humble, humane individual who taught us the true value of learning clinical science, which is such a paramount importance even today to learning the finer nuances of endocrinology. The root of that came from the residency, and this began the journey of joy, the journey of learning. And this was my period of residency from 1988 to 1990. After having completed DM in endocrinology, there was a burning desire and a need to sort of have this fulfillment of having international exposure to a subject of endocrinology and never feel inferior in my heart and in my brain to anybody outside in my country. I felt good within myself to stand up to any colleague shoulder to shoulder nationally, but I wanted the same privilege and the same pleasure to stand up to the colleague who is possibly at an advantageous situation or being trained much more meticulously, because for every organ system there is a subspecialist in sort of training program of UK and USA. And that became a journey of international exposure when I trained at University College London for a period of about 1.5 to 2 years, subspecialized in pediatric endocrinology, and came back with widened perspective back to my alma mater, my own department where I wanted to nurture a dream. Ladies and gentlemen, I joined this department as a lecturer with a dream. And I had a dream to say that my department should be delivering a patient care and a postgraduate training which had to be at a level or even surpass a level of training and patient care which is done internationally. Nowhere within myself or my postgraduate should ever feel inferior to any faculty who he encounters in his international exposure, or feel inferior at any time in his training curriculum from a fellow colleague who has been trained internationally. And with that dream, that goal post, I aligned my love and my passion. And with a positive energy, what came up was a department of excellence, and that is a journey of joy that I'd like to share with you. This is the journey where I kind of went through different milestones of hierarchical positions and became head of the department and now Professor Emeritus in the same very department of prestigious institution of KM Hospital. And what I'd like to share with you are the 10 commandments of learning. As I reflect back on my journey of 3 decades in this department of endocrinology, there have been 10 learning lessons that I have accrued and acquired, and I'd love to share that with you as a process of something which you might want to reflect upon. Education is a continuum of a process. It is not bound by any degree that you acquire, be it MD, DM, or even a training internationally beyond that. You are a student of an eternity. And education and educating oneself is a process that continues throughout the life of a teacher. And I think a best of the teacher is always a student at heart. And that's what I am. I am just a good student who had a great fortune of being sort of working with superb postgraduates in my own department. And that comes from not only learning just the textbooks, which you sort of always use as your Bibles, it comes from a much more up-to-date knowledge base, and our institution is so very sort of helpful in this respect that we have access to multiple journals, practically every single journal conceivable in the respective subjects, and staying abreast with these journals which are published like yesterday is something which is absolutely a must. All of us sitting in this institution, the institution and a department of pride ought to be so abreast that nobody can point out to us, did you read that article? Of course you've read it, because you have to be so one-up on everybody else, because that is a position of a proud moment that we hold, and we have chosen this as a career, to be a teacher and a good caretaker of our patients. So staying abreast with journal is a must, and that is such a supreme joy of learning that continues in the lifetime of an individual. Also, learning is something has to be done in a very methodological manner, and this credit of how to learn a subject is something that I have acquired only in last 5 years, and the complete credit of this goes to my department and my colleagues. And what I learned is that every new subject that you set out to learn should be learned in a chronological manner. It should be learned right from history to its all learnings as it evolves year by year, and different milestones that they get accrued in that subject and how they change as a fundamental concept till you come to today of learning for that particular subject. And that's the only way by which you learn the subject in a very holistic manner, where you're able to learn not only what's written through the textbooks or the journals, you start learning and respecting what is not written and what's given in between the lines. And that brings out the sharpness or the limitations of the knowledge, or sort of enhancement of the knowledge bank that you acquire in this manner. Patients. Patients are our best teachers, and this institution, with its rating and that it enjoys, brings in such great spectrum of patients for every single disorder that you want to sort of further your knowledge base and gain your momentum of learning. Every single disorder you can further here, because it gives you a huge spectrum of patients. It allows you to learn that a disease behaves in a very different manner as it evolves through patients by patient, and even sort of tests or the diagnostics that you apply to these patients to prove your diagnosis also behaves in an extremely different manner in different patients with the same disease as a process. And outcome of treatment that you apply to these patients is also very different in different patients. The sheer nuances of learning can come only when you're involved with the patient care. And it is an extremely humbling experience whenever you sort of learn from our patients and you sort of go back to your journals or go back to your books to sort of sharpen your fundamentals about that patient more and more and in detail. this saying of William Osler, the sort of balance between books and patience as your learning curve, has always been the motto with which I think my department has worked, and that is so very rewarding, ladies and gentlemen. Please, please believe in this. Do not ever question it, and enhance your knowledge which you accrue from books with patient care and vice versa. And that's the only holistic and a complete manner of learning that one needs to learn in this very institution. Students, any student, any postgraduate, any resident are your best teacher. The whole atmosphere in the department has to be of such harmony and such positivity that every resident should have an ability and a freedom to question you, to say, why are you doing what you are doing? And unless that happens, I think the learning curve never completes itself. And there is always a limitation of faculty members in an institution like ours. When I trained myself, it was just Dr. Bhandarkar and one lecturer and one co-resident that I had. A major limitation to learning in terms of the sheer number, but you can change that, and every one of our department can do that by following a simple principle that our department had adopted. At any given point in time, we would have anything from 9 to 12 trainees or post-DM residents in the department. Every student, every resident of ours in our department, as a rule, was considered an expert in a particular disorder which was assigned to that resident. And that resident held a highest vote or a highest opinion in that particular disorder. It was a rule taken for granted to ask, for example, a parathyroid disorder where I wanted to kind of operate on a dubious situation. I had to take permission from my resident who was authority on parathyroid disorder, like Sushil in this particular case, to say, Sushil, this is a primary hyperparathyroidism with normal calcium. Should I operate on this patient? Do you agree with what I am taking as a decision? And unless Sushil agreed, this decision could not be taken. That was a position of responsibility that postgraduate held, and that meant that postgraduate had to be so thorough with his knowledge bank, his reading and his acumen, that he became a teacher for all of us in parathyroid disorders. So suddenly I now had over and above 4 faculty colleagues, 9 or 12 other residents who were also our teachers. Ladies and gentlemen, I think postgraduates are our biggest learning bank and biggest teachers, and all of us are gifted with these postgraduate students, and I think we all can really learn together with them in a most harmonized, symbiotic relationship that we need to hold with them. Passion makes all the difference, and passion for learning is what makes all the difference. Passion for learning which makes all the difference. So I think being hungry for knowledge and get whatever means which allow you to sharpen your knowledge is what we have worked with in our department. Any international faculty who was traveling through the city of Mumbai was always invited to the department, and we went through a subject matter of their expertise in a threadbare manner, which allowed the whole facet of learning to be so very specialized, so very sort of thorough, and that allowed a sharpness to a particular subject which could sort of come through. And limitation of a physical presence of this faculty was something which was removed completely as of last year with the AV facility which now exists in a very, very nicely formatted manner in our library, where we regularly hold webinars with all the international faculty, and that meant the economic challenges, the logistic challenges, or the physical presence of these faculty members was no more necessary. And we kind of went through this learning process in a much more crystallized manner, and every subject matter could be now discussed on a much more thorough or sort of even micro level of management, and there was no more a limitation to say that this person is available only for 20 minutes or 30 minutes of one particular talk. We had 2 hours of dedicated teaching, learning, question answer session on these webinars, webinar after webinar, and that brought in such stalwarts right to your doorstep without hindrance of any geographical barriers. And that has been one of the most effective mode of learning that department has acquired, and I'm so very proud of that. Also, reaching out to non-available. I think one of the things which kind of made my department sort of very thorough, I would say, or I felt very, very allergic to a word to say, this is not possible at KM. This cannot be done in our country. There is no such limitation, ladies and gentlemen. You can always reach out to any international authority or a national authority with whatever request that you have, whether it's a clinical request in terms of enhancing the diagnostic management of a patient, or it is a genetic sample that you want to sort of exchange with them to get a better answer to the disease process that underlies your patient, which is going to allow much refined management to be brought to your patient. Like in this particular example, it is a very unusual case which is related to PPND, one of the very unusual aspect of Cushing. We had a whole family of Cushing and we really didn't know what was the genetic basis of it. We sort of sent out the genetic sample, replied, got our results sort of validated to our thinking which we did as a process. And not only the patient benefits from these results, the extended family members of the patients who were actually not realize that they have a problem could be now offered management in a very proactive manner rather than a reactive manner, which is always sort of problematic because there are so much of water has flown under the bridge, and the management of a patient in a reactive manner is never fulfilling, rather than being a proactiveness, which is more preventative medicine, which is so very nice in terms of preventing a complication in a particular patient. And that became another mode of learning, teaching, and enhancement of patient care. As we were strengthening the science of our learning and our patient care and our postgraduate training, it became very, very clear that we had to combine it with the art as well. And the art lied in a fact that many of the systems which are required for a routine care of our patients have to be sort of translated into self-sufficient systems. It is difficult for a system and an institution like ours to have sort of blank period of availability of certain ingredients, certain substances, or of kits which are required to take care of our patients. And if you translated this into a self-sustaining system, it would sort of have a continued care of a cycle without any blank phases or a break in patient care. And that is so very essential, for the spirit of all of us working in the department, certainly from the patient's point of view, and certainly from the postgraduate who do not feel negative about the patient care being broken up. And I think the constellation of stars sort of helps you when you want to think positive and fill your department with positive energy. Even as a resident in 1989, when I went up with this proposal to Dr. Bhandarkar, a very senior human being, a very senior honorary consultant, and my mentor, to tell him that we needed to put together a hormone assay system which is a backbone of learning for a department like endocrinology, and for that matter, the entire institution like KM. And if we could produce a system where the test could be charged only at a cost price, which would allow patient to pay for it and create a corpus which can buy the kit and so on, that would allow a self-sufficient system. And from 1989, Sir was humble enough to accept that sort of request, work on it, and with his methodological sort of perfection brought in this system which is completely self-sufficient for the department. And today also this hormone assay system continues to function in a seamless manner without period of darkness for our patients' well-being. Also, I think all the donors are sort of very convinced when you bring in this aspect of positive attitude and the positive outcome of patients, and they kind of join your hands to bring together and remove a limitation of finances through various donors, various organizations, and that missing link of economics, which could be a challenge, right from diagnostics to therapeutics to monitoring of the patient to the care of the family members in certain genetic conditions, all could be sort of taken care of by this rich donations which were obtained from various organizations which allowed patient care fulfillment to be put together. All this can happen only if department functions as a team. And I think one of the biggest function of head of the department is to kind of put together this essence and a spirit of teamwork, because team can make any dream come together and realize any dream to its fulfillment. Team spirit can be extended to other departments also, and what we put together were multiple interdisciplinary care for various disorders and their care of various departments in this institution from the neighboring institutions. And what was born was regional group of disorders related meeting, head and neck oncology related meetings, pathology meeting, neuroendocrinology meeting, disorders of sex development, clinical meeting between all of the institutions in the city of Mumbai, Christian Medical College, Vellore, and a clinical meeting happening with them regularly, Michigan University and a clinical meeting happening with them regularly. All that kind of kept abreast the academic spirit of the department, and it allowed the patient care to be conducted in a joint manner, because all patients require joint expertise of all of us sitting together in these different departments, and that was so very fulfilling as well. This team spirit is something which needs to be nurtured in an ongoing manner, and with that, with very simple means and measures of celebrating everybody's birthdays, celebrating every single festival in the department, be it a cup of tea, be it a lunch, or be it just a simple game that all of us played together, and that kind of just allowed everybody to feel on the same page, and that allowed truly the vision which was shared by the entire department till it became mission of every single individual working in the department. And it's only that everyone visualizes the same goals and works towards those goals as a mission can you fulfill all these responsibilities of bringing about a department of academic excellence. And that's what really happened. Research then happens as an offshoot of all these learning, teaching modules that you put together, and it is something which just comes up as another mode of learning together. And department sort of was fortunate with superb colleagues with whom I have worked all along, and fantastic postgraduate residents who were so very committed and so brilliant in their task that we could put together 167 publications, 80% of which are in international journals, and they have been sort of one of another major means of crystallizing our own learning that we were churning around and have it published for recognition both nationally and internationally. About 10 years ago, department realized the need of enhancing another facet of research, and that was putting together molecular endocrinology laboratory. And that was such a difficult concept for us because we are, at the end of the day, hardcore clinicians. But we realized that if we had to stay abreast with an international progress of the subject and stay abreast with international faculty or international literature, we had to have a molecular arm of learning inducted in our own core essence of patient care, and that is the concept with which Molecular Endocrinology Lab was born. And I am very, very happy to say that so many of fundamental aspects of our learning became sort of much more clearer, and we've had several major publications which were accrued from the work which was done in-house in the Molecular Endocrinology Laboratory. All this was possible by superbly kept and managed database systems. This database system was started by Dr. Bhandarkar. I was merely instrumental in ensuring and furthering it and digitizing it in every aspect of database keeping, and that database became such a strength of the department that one could fall back on it as a learning to say this patient is behaving in a very different manner compared to our 100 previous patients who behaved very, very differently, and at a flick of a button we could sort of go through that to learn and relearn the process of every aspect of patient care. So database is a major strength which was accrued in the department because of our mentor, Dr. Bhandarkar. Visibility is a proof of validation of what you're doing in the department, and it's a must for validating what you are doing. And presentations on a national platform and international platform was something that was a goalpost of the department, because that allowed a department's feeling of well-being, department's feeling of feeling positive and being connected at par and being on the same page nationally and internationally. And that was also one of research publications was another means to produce a validity and visibility of our work, which we sort of constantly looked out for. And one of the milestones that the department acquired was being recognized as the first and the only department in our country for the program which was instituted by Endocrine Society of USA, which recognized our department for the nascent program that they floated called Ambassador Exchange Program, and our department was sort of selected for that, where for 2 weeks the faculty members for both the departments exchanged their faculty, and the learning and teaching sort of was further strengthened. And that learning brought in a new set of visibility in Endocrine Society USA for our department, something which we continue to nurture even today with constantly geared and regulated meetings with University of Michigan and strengthening our new baby and a newly acquired strength of endocrine oncology. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so very happy to say that endocrine oncology as a subspecialty, the need of this was recognized long ago by the department, and today that is held as a separate outpatient clinic in our department of endocrine oncology, the first of its kind in our country. We are very, very proud of it, and we continue to do this only so that the patient management can be streamlined very effectively. The last of the 10 commandments, which I have learned in my life and which I think is the most prestigious moment of my learning, is something that I learned from my mentor, Dr. S.T. Bhandarkar, a most humble man who trained himself at Scotland in endocrinology, came back to this alma mater, set up a very difficult task of producing Department of Endocrinology, and created this very department which we just have nurtured from what he put up as a strong foundation stone of a great department. And what he taught us was that you worked in the department as commitment to the cause. You worked in the department in a most humane and a humble human being who is a caretaker of your patients and who needs to nurture your postgraduates with an attitude building exercise which is a prime learning that your postgraduate must go through over and above learning of endocrinology. And I think that is one exercise that we've continued to kind of narrate, induct, and nurture in our postgraduates. And maybe my postgraduates would stand testimony to that, to say that patient care and being humane in approach to the patients, respecting patients and giving them their due dignity is one of the fundamental mottos with which we have worked in the department. This transformed our department from Department of Academic Excellence to academic happiness. And this academic happiness is so visible in all of us on our faces as we go through picnics or we go through one nice dinner that we are enjoying because department has got superb international publication to its credit. And that has been the joy of the journey that I have gone through. Ladies and gentlemen, as I go through this journey of joy, I'd like to share with you one last gift that I acquired from the department. This is my own photograph with a collage of 99 postgraduates who trained with me, who gave me the fortune of working with them. I think I was very, very fortunate to have this brilliant postgraduates who chose Department of Endocrinology, and I was fortunate enough to work with them. Whatever I am today, I think I owe it completely to my department, this institution, and my wonderful, wonderful postgraduate residents. If I could have audacity to leave behind one single message for all of you sitting in this auditorium. Ladies and gentlemen, dream high, dream big, align your goals to your passion and love, and fill it up with positive attitude and positive energy, and success is bound to follow. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing your wonderful journey with us. I request the chairpersons to please come on the dais. We also have Dr. Asha Dalal Madam, Professor and Head of Department, B.Y.L. Hospital. She is the daughter of Dr. Sindhu Pandit. I request her to join us on the dais, please, ma'am. I request both the chairpersons to felicitate Dr. Nalini Shah Madam with shawl, Shrifar and hemp memento.
Plaque reads Dr. Sindhu R. Pandit Memorial Oration delivered by Dr. Nalini Shah on a lifetime at KEM, learning the art and science of medicine at St. G.S. Medical College in KEM Hospital, Mumbai, 21st Jan 2019. Dr. M.V.L.Kothari, Dean and President.
Please be seated, ma'am. I I request Dr. Geeta Natraj Madam, Professor and Head of Department of Microbiology and Secretary Gossamer Alumni Association, to present the mementos to our chairpersons as token of gratitude. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.